Jennifer Garner is leading the cast in an Apple TV Plus original limited series called The Last Thing You Told Me. There are twists and deceit in this mystery, but is it a satisfying watch? Hannah must forge a relationship with her 16-year-old stepdaughter Bailey in order to find the truth about why her husband has mysteriously disappeared. So along with Jennifer Garner, this stars Angourie Rice, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, and Aisha Tyler. Now, the premise for the series, which is also based on a book, is that one day a husband and father disappears, leaving his new wife and his daughter in a state of turmoil as accusations begin to flow about some sketchy stuff that he may have been involved in. Now, while I haven't read the best-selling novel by Laura Dave, she is the creator of this series. So if there are points that veer off from the source material, she was at the helm while those decisions were being made. Now, this is 7 episodes, with the first 2 dropping together, followed by weekly releases. And each of the episodes are 35 to 45 minutes long, so they are a fairly quick watch. Now, I really like Jennifer Garner in this because she is a tough and a thinking character. And while she's rattled at the disappearance of her husband, she doesn't break down and become a useless pile of worry. Instead, she becomes proactive and begins the investigation to figure out where he went and why. And her dynamic with Angourie Rice, I think it's outstanding. For so much of the series, there is a cold and somewhat antagonistic atmosphere between them. Rice plays Bailey, and she's not too keen on her stepmom, even though we don't see or learn of anything that Garner's Hannah has done to deserve the ire, other than not being her biological mom. Now, Rice does a great job of making Bailey a little likable and sympathetic, but also someone who's kind of a bee, and that creates some conflict on whether or not we want to root for her. There's a good amount of urgency that's mixed with the suspense and mystery of the disappearance, especially as we're given tiny bits of info that could lead to multiple outcomes. Now, there's a small amount of predictability to the plot, but it's not overt or even wildly obvious. And it just means that you can probably guess what's going on before it's revealed, but the clues aren't put right out in front of our face immediately. There are a few areas of misdirection I think that really work. Characters are built to have a natural air of suspicion around them, and the way the story is told and edited, there are several times that I was very leery of certain players because I thought for sure they were in on some area of the mystery. Now, I'm not going to tell you if I was right or wrong, but that curiosity was captivating. And because this is a weekly release, there needs to be a hook to draw us back each time. In episode 4, or maybe it was 5, when it ended, I said out loud, well, that was rude, because it is a really good cliffhanger. I mean, not all of the episodes end that way, but there is a lot of intrigue that's built that I think will keep you coming back for more. Now, I enjoyed the ride, and I like some of the misdirection that's introduced, but there are also areas of the story that I think are pretty shallowly developed, and they feel like they kind of go nowhere. At one point, an antagonist is shown to have influence over another character. I mean, at least that's what we hear on the phone. But that story arc doesn't seem to go anywhere. I was thinking it would cause ripples in the way that Hannah and or Bailey carried out their search, but it doesn't. It's surprisingly unimpactful, so it felt weird to have this line of thinking introduced by some dialogue and then just not have it followed up on. There's also a lot of plot conveniences that are created for our characters to move about efficiently through the story. Now, I didn't mind them for the most part, but they are present. Now, there's a scene that creates a coincidence with a church lady, and all of a sudden, that opens up a lot of areas for the story. Now, it did feel a little cheap or maybe rushed, but at least it did keep the story flowing. The energy of the show is kind of odd also. It starts off mysterious and then becomes pretty engaging, with a lot of tension and suspense that's building, and it's all then mixed with anxious energy. And then, when the story approaches the climax, the momentum plateaus and even begins to drop off. So by the end, it was just kind of there. There's a scene that has a sort of showdown between some characters, and while it has some potential to be nerve-wracking and intense, it peters out and is kind of just a disappointing letdown. I was a bit bummed that the series ended with such a large dip in emotion and drama, especially what had been created in previous episodes. Now, the acting is fun, but really the show revolves around Garner and Rice, and at times they're having a pout-off to just see who can look the most displeased. And although Nikolai Coster-Waldau is one of the top billed, as is Aisha Tyler, they're both not in this a ton. They're mainly background players, while Garner and Rice do their thing. Now, in one episode, there is a cameo that I think is going to make a lot of people happy. It was a cool surprise, and yet it didn't feel kitschy or forced. So, for as much fun as I had with the majority of the story and with the amount of schemes that are created, I still think this will be more of a satisfying watch to go at it at least every other week so that you can watch 2 episodes at a time and get a larger chunk of the story. It's an easy watch and one that can be a lot of fun. It just can't maintain the thrills and passion that the narrative starts out with. So, overall, Jennifer Garner and Angourie Rice convincingly deliver fear and concern as they work to solve the mystery of their missing family member. The story is captivating and contains a lot of misdirection and false clues, but it also introduces storylines that aren't addressed or resolved, and when combined with a lackluster climax, the narrative fizzles as it reaches the end. This isn't a bad watch by any means, and I think you can have a lot of fun with the characters in the story. Just be aware that it may not live up to the expectations it creates in the first half of the show. There's a tiny bit of sex, no nudity, a lot of profanity, and then a little violence. I give The Last Thing He Told Me 3 out of 5 couches. So what's a good mystery that you've seen recently? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.